Thanks for staying with us at STL Live. I'm Sarah Thompson, and my guests today are Melanie Davis and Lindsay Kayanka of St. Louis Crisis Nursery. Thank you guys again for being here.
Thank you.
So I want to pick back up. We have this graphic that really shows, I think, the age groups of the children that you serve. Obviously, in the name St. Louis Crisis Nursery, one might automatically assume just babies, but you actually go up to past early childhood. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. So we serve children all the way up to age 12. Now, the majority of children we serve do tend to be 5 and under. So that makes a lot of sense when you think about the ages of kids that are at home. They're not in school. It's more difficult to sometimes find a place for younger kids to stay. It can take a little bit more supervision when you're thinking about looking for a caregiver or relative to help. So the majority of children, looking at the graphic, are under the age of 5.
Yeah, let's go ahead and we'll have that take a look. And this, I think, is a sort of pie chart, I believe, that breaks it down. So yes, you're correct in what you're saying, ages 2 to 3, that's 30%. But still, that's a good number for 9 plus. I mean, I want to give people, you talked about the hotline, and that's the number that regardless people should go to if they have any questions or to start with the hotline.
Yes.
But give me some examples when we talk about a stay at the nursery. What does that before situation look like? Can you give me a case study or an example of the before situation?
Sure.
When if I'm someone thinking about should I call, who would I be? What might be an example of that?
Sure. So, excuse me, I would say a fairly common situation would be a parent that maybe has 3 or 4 little ones under the age of 5, has been working really hard, and maybe recently got an eviction notice and is feeling really overwhelmed trying to figure out how she can work extra hours at work to pay the bills, the children's behaviors, because she's stressed, their behaviors are getting more difficult, and so is just feeling really overwhelmed, not sure where else to turn, maybe doesn't have a lot of family members in the area, so she calls the crisis nursery.
Okay.
And on the other line is going to be one of our intake counselors who is trained to respond really well to that situation, to listen to what the parent is going through, to, like I mentioned before, see if there are other resources that can help. And if it sounds like something where that parent really needs care at the nursery, then we're going to set up an intake for that parent.
And I think we're looking at, this gives the 6,800 children received 264,000 hours of crisis care for the following reasons. And it gives parental stress as the bulk, as 60%, and then breaks it down: homeless, utility crisis, health crisis, domestic violence is another one. So I think there's something we want to mention too, and this is, Melanie, I think a good point that you can bring on is after a child might stay, there might be a stay, there's follow-up with that family. Do you want to talk a bit more about that?
Absolutely. And I would like to also add that we do have some families that maybe never use the nursery, but will reach out to our outreach centers. So they go hand in hand, they can go hand in hand, but it's not necessarily necessary for that family, because some families may not need to bring in their children for care in our nurseries, and we can provide that one-on-one support with their children in their home and just help kind of build resources around that family to keep them safe and to build their networks up. But yes, absolutely, we meet with the families in the home at least once a month, and we kind of do that goal setting piece with them, or wherever they're kind of stuck at that moment, and we kind of look at that. And we're able to really delve into like really what's going on with the family to see what other resources they may need and what other support they may need. So absolutely. And then they're also free to come into any of our outreach centers, and we have a private space where we can connect with them and then also provide them with that support as well.
It's really, I mean, no, it's wonderful, and I think it's important for them to know that it's not just, it is on one end in that moment the need that might be there, but also that there's care afterwards and that there's the follow-up. I want to get more. We still have a lot more to talk about before we get a break. Take a look at St. Louis Crisis Nursery, providing emergency intervention and family support. Reach out to the 24-hour helpline at 314-768-3201, or for more information, go to crisisnurserykids.org. But we're going to have more with St. Louis Crisis Nursery right after this break. Please stay with us.